My name is Brittany Hofnagel. As you can see on the board, I'm based in Warren, Massachusetts, and I work for a private engineering consulting company called Woods Hole Group. We kind of specialize in the coastal environment and range from various clients, but we just help solve environmental issues for our clients. So my title at my job is environmental scientist, but also lead a lot of our GIS protocol development and processing and management. So that's who I am. Because this group is small, I guess we could go around and actually introduce ourselves to anybody that doesn't know each other. Nate, you want to start?
Sure. Like Brittany, I'm one of the board members at NEARC, but I'm up here in Seacoast, New Hampshire. I work for a engineering company called Terracon, National Engineering Company, and I'm their GIS administrator. So all manner of enterprise portal and such.
Rebecca, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Rebecca Talamini. I'm out of East Windsor, Connecticut, and I work for a private GIS consulting firm called AppGeo. And I'm a project manager kind of / analyst, depending on the project that I'm working on.
Nice. Ted, do you want to give yourself an introduction?
Yes, I'm Ted Colville. I am with WSP USA. WSP USA is a huge worldwide engineering company, and I am part of the geospatial group within WSP. And I always like to say, if you want to find anything on the WSP website about geospatial, you have to hire a private investigator to find it, because there's really not much up there. But we have a group. It's mainly East Coast, from New England down to the Carolinas. We are reaching out to finding opportunities within the U.S. But our group is we do quite a bit of land survey, GIS. My specialty is more on the aerial platform and LiDAR. We do have a mobile system that we use for like engineering applications. We also do a lot of terrestrial LiDAR projects. So we're kind of all over the place. There's a lot of things that we do, and I don't know how much more to explain about it, but yeah, we do. We do all sorts of different stuff.
Okay. A.W. Thompson, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Andrew Thompson, the GIS administrator for TRC's environmental sector. We do a bunch of work with solar, wind, do pipelines, transmission lines, so a lot of GIS involved with field work, local state reporting, federal reports, COPS, COPS or whatever. So yeah, but I deal with the licensing and server admin for our portal and server and ArcGIS Online accounts. And yeah, we host all that in AWS. Like I think Nate, I saw his presentation where he has his local or on-premise, I think is what is his at. So I was interested to see how you dealt with the on-premise stuff compared to our cloud-based. So yeah, it's good to see that presentation. So yeah, thanks.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess my goal of this discussion was me coming from a non-GIS firm. We've always, I'm always interested in learning how other non-GIS consultants have kind of developed their GIS platform and the back end and the service, the licensing and the server. And so that was my motivation for leading this roundtable, but also hoped that other GIS firms like Rebecca, that you would come and share your perspective as well. So I have about 9 slides that hopefully will just kind of lend themselves to discussion. But the first slide I'm going to go over is feel free to use the pen. Again, if you haven't accessed this Google document, you can access it through the chat link. Go ahead and feel free to use the pen to, mark for your company who's your primary client.
Brittany, I'm trying to locate where that chat link would be.
So if you go into the session that we're in,
Okay.
in the chat up here, you'll see the link. I'm not sure if it restricts one person interacting at a time, but
Okay, is that the maybe I'm just on the wrong page.
We're on the second page of the Jamboard thing.
oh yeah.
Sorry about that, I really couldn't hear you.
Oh, and Kim also posted in the chat. If the chat is.
Oh, I just,
Once you get to the Jamboard, there's. Go for it, Rebecca.
I was going to say there's different frames that you can look at the top. Right now it says.
oh, duh,
pen
it's
or
at the
something.
bottom. I found it.
That's okay. All right, so I see some of us have local municipality, natural resources, other. Who would like, anyone want to speak to who other is? I don't know who did the triangles.
That was me. I was trying to think of between the difference between various and other. So I, I checked
guess-
off both of them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think other was if there was something that I didn't list, and then various is my company. We do mostly stuff for local municipality, but also have state contracts for government, and we do a lot of work for a nonprofit as well.
Sure. So yeah, we do a lot of solar developers, I guess, would be one. But that's
So that's actually other industry or interesting. Cool. Anyone else want to speak on maybe what your various clients are, or?
Well, I'll just say that for us, engineering consulting, we deal with a lot of private companies who are looking to build something, for example, outside or just environmental analysis or whatever it might be, outside of government municipality.
Well, Rebecca, do you mind sharing who you
Yeah.
primarily work for?
So we primarily work with local government,
Okay.
mainly New England, but elsewhere as well. But then we also work with like universities and different schools for maybe some utility mapping projects. We work with some state DOTs for a variety of projects there as well. So that's mainly what I work on, but there's others too. We do a lot of strategic planning at AppGeo, as well as some of the broadband projects throughout this country as well.
Okay, cool. Cool. Anyone else want to comment before I move on to the next slide? Okay, cool. I feel like we might have already covered this, but I think just how do you use GIS in your job? And I like to hear different perspectives based on what type of company you are. Again, so my company is environmental based, coastal engineering based, and we also have created our state level climate change sea level rise data set that starts in the modeling in NEARC and SWAN, but then the results come through the NEARC platform. And so there's a lot of tedious GIS processing and editing and protocol development on how to process rasters and convert it to polygons. And so on my end, it's more of leading the processing protocol and development and the tedious work of GIS processing and editing. So that's how I use it in my job. And then I've also started to experiment with our AGOL to do story maps as part of our product deliverables. And that's where I'm trying to push us, is to kind of convert to pro and in this interface with ArcGIS Online. And not having a degree in GIS, it's a learning curve to kind of start getting my company in that trajectory. So that's my perspective, but I'd love to hear others.
I'll start off. A lot of what we do is really data gathering and data collection. A big part of my specialty is aerial photogrammetry, digital orthophotography, and then we take that data and we bring it into a geo database, which we will provide to our clients. But also we do a lot of stuff with we do have clients that we do work with to create a more robust database that that they can use within their internal systems. I mean, a lot of the people that attend NEARC are really much more hardcore than we are in GIS, but it is a market that we play in. But a lot of what we do is the data gathering and data providing.
So who wants to speak to that in reporting? Okay.
So sorry, I came late, so I didn't get a chance to introduce myself earlier. So I'm with UF down in Florida, but transitioning out of that, and have done some consulting previously with local government and also with NGOs, so nonprofits, more like global oriented type of organizations. And typically for those types of clients, I'm bringing my UAS, my drone mapping expertise to the table, and they're reliant on me to, whatever it is, create whatever types of deliverables that they need. And it's it's good experience. As far as GIS, it really depends on the client and what they're looking for at the end, but a lot of them are related to either natural resource or to housing infrastructure type projects.
Cool. Who said real-time data delivery? Environmental modeling.
So I did all three of those.
Okay.
Try to keep the color consistent. So a lot of the projects that we do, it's a report to a client with risks, hazards of building assessments and so forth. And those need exhibits. They need just standard data deliverables, whether that be a web map or an actual PDF. So we do have many people to do that. But also I put real-time data delivery because we have some clients who want, for say, structural steel to be able to see 3D, 2D data collected in the field through dashboards and elsewise to do daily reporting back to them so they have an understanding of where the project is and scope. Mm-hmm. Environmental modeling is something I'm not super familiar with, but it's something we do as a group. Kelsey Tobin gave a presentation earlier about this, but we do use GIS to do those, as well as other software, but GIS is the base of that, having some kind of spatial component to really showcase to the client internally where stuff is within and above and beneath the project itself, such as slope rooms. So I think it really comes down to is clients for us really want to know where something is truly and compare it with their plans and getting some kind of reporting back on if it's a good idea or not to proceed in certain directions.
Cool. Anyone want to speak to the data maintenance? I have no way of knowing who's here using these symbols, but
That was mine.
Okay.
We do a lot of parcel data maintenance for a lot of our municipal clients. So they'll send us their stuff annually, and then we post it and put it on our MapGeo site, which is an AppGeo product. And that's where we do a lot of other like analytical overlays for them, and other analyses that we can put on the MapGeo site. So for us, the MapGeo platform is kind of the end result for a lot of our local government clients.
Cool. And the site suitability.
That was me.
Okay.
Andrew. So a lot of our work right now is trying to find suitable siting for projects of solar. That's basically been all of New England and New York. So we've created some dashboards for clients that shows, what parcels might be available, the natural resources on there, how close it is to the grid, stuff like that. And then we run analyses for them, and then they can go out and say, okay, they want to pick these 3 sites for us to investigate further. We can do viewshed analysis for them, sound analysis, stuff like that.
Cool. All right, yeah, that's a really good overview. Anyone else have any last thing to say about this slide before I move on? I think everyone's right in the fact that it's definitely client-based, and we do GIS that serves a need for our client base. So it's interesting to hear all of our perspectives.
Yeah, one other thing.
Go for it.
One other thing I'd like to add is a lot of times in project development, project planning, project estimating, we'll utilize a lot of the local data sets that's available, whether it be through a state agency or a local GIS. So in some ways, we're using GIS that's been developed by other companies or other agencies to help with our current projects.
Cool. Nate.
And I was about to say actually something very similar for us of data curation and really a data catalog, a central repository for practitioners to review data to see the project site without having been there physically to analyze the ground itself. So yeah, I was about to say something almost exactly the same.
Cool. All right. So my next question, I think this is the last one. We'll have one more before we get into the nitty-gritty, but go ahead and use the pen and actually write down a tally for where you fall, and then we'll have some discussion on that. And GIS background, I mean, as like you went to school and got like a degree in GIS.
We've been doing this on our tablets.
It's 50-50 here. Some of you guys are in both, which is interesting. Anyone want to explain what having your name under both?
I've done a lot of self-taught, but I also got a GIS certification through a college,
Okay.
kind of partway through my career in GIS. So I started, self-taught, did a UNH program, and then decided to get a certification instead of going for my GISP, which I still could do. Almost there. So yeah, that's kind of, and since then, again, my certification, I still self-taught a lot of the
Okay.
administration stuff for what I'm doing now, the server admin, portal server, SQL Server, all that kind of stuff. So
Cool. Anyone else want to add to that?
I was just thinking that, I mean, even if you have a background in GIS, the technology is always changing. So you're always kind of teaching yourself as the technology evolves. So that's really what it came down to for me, for putting it myself in both categories.
Yeah, I guess so I'm completely self-taught, and I might have had like mentors who helped teach me, but I didn't go to school for GIS, and it's just something that I really liked and enjoyed, and kind of have developed that in my career. And I've always questioned, is it worth it for me to go back and get a degree or certificate? And it's just something, is there advantages of doing that, or advantages of being just self-taught, or advantages of having an actual degree? Anyone have any input on that?
I think there's some advantages in trying to get certificates like the GSP. If for nothing else, it's really to signal out that you know someone to, if you're talking to someone new who doesn't know you, but if nothing else, to confirm that you really do have a wide grasp on GIS as a whole. It doesn't go into too much depth in any one area, but it does hit on some things that you might not do in your everyday job, which just kind of proves what you need to learn more about.
Okay. I guess another question too for me is like, what am I missing? Like, is it the back end server management, or that kind of stuff, the administrative stuff? Is that what I'm missing with not getting a degree and stuff like that? So it's always one, because that's the one thing I'm not super knowledgeable about, is the back end administrative stuff.
So I can speak to the academic piece, because that's the environment I've lived in for the last 12 years. And I've, advised lots of students along the way. You're not going to get that much the back end from the academic programs. That's going to be something that you're going to learn from Nate's talk yesterday, or from other resources that he provides. You get a lot of theory, and so you might understand a little bit more of the whys, especially when it comes to spatial analysis and things of that nature. But yeah, I wouldn't say that you'd necessarily get all the tools from a degree, but it is going to be pretty broad, and you'll be exposed to probably a lot more technologies than you would in your day-to-day, and then you can bring that back to your workplace.
Rebecca, do you have anything to say on that?
So from my experience, I had gotten a minor in GIS when I was doing my bachelor's, and I haven't done anything more in terms of school other than doing some of the free online Esri things that they have, some of the MOOCs. But I feel like in college, you kind of learn like the basics of this is GIS. And then when you get elsewhere in a job or whatever, you learn so much more. And I think that real world experience is way more beneficial than some of the college desk things. So personally, I don't plan on going back to school to further that education, other than continuing to grow my knowledge based on where I am at AppGeo and doing different things. And certainly I don't know a lot of the back end things like the APIs and the enterprise and all that stuff, but I know who to call to find out and ask more on our team. So that's the benefits of us as a GIS consultant, is that we have people in those specific areas where if I don't know something, I can ask somebody in my company to get more information or to answer a question for a client, depending on what the issue is.
That's awesome. That's a good perspective that I'm glad and thankful to have you here. So anyone else want to add anything?
I think especially for the technical side of it, like the back end, which we keep bringing up, how do I say this? A lot of programming in general and a lot of the IT skills that go into that, you can learn without going to any kind of program. Udemy, MIT and Harvard have their own online courses for free for stuff like this. It's more continued education outside of a program itself. that's definitely a solid option.
Good ideas. All right, any final comments before I move on? All right. And we don't have to limit this. This is just an open-ended question, but we don't have to limit this to ARC or anything. But, you know, in terms of your company, what GIS software is your company utilizing the most? You might be a GIS company, so you have your own thing. But I'd be interested to see what everyone is using in their current platform or the current company. And I think I'm asking part of this question is like, if there's a similar company to mine in this group chat, I'm, you know, wondering how our usage differs from others. So interested. I think this comes down to the technology is moving so quickly, and it's, you know, the company doesn't want to be left behind and not be able to, you know, satisfy clients if they don't have the, you know, the latest and greatest. And so it's just interesting for me to see what other companies are using. Okay. Anyone want to make a comment and discuss?
So I'll talk to the AppGeo side of things. Primarily we use ARC maps and we're trying to transition over to Pro. Easier said than done. Mainly some of our holdup and hesitation to go forward is the utility network. We have a lot of utility clients that we work with for stormwater and sewer. So pretty small minor things, and they really only have that GIS data so they can look at it. They really don't do much with it. So we haven't transitioned over to the utility network. And again, because it's client-based, we need to have money and funds to pay for that switch over. So yeah, there's that. But then we also do some ArcGIS online and set up dashboards or collector apps or field maps at this point. And then we use Carto for some things and visualizations, but again, it really depends on what the client need is. If ARC is not the solution, then we're not going to use ARC. We'll use something else. So.
Cool. Anyone else want to add comments? Sorry. It's the downside of working in an office still. I don't know if you can hear the Anyway, I can move to the next slide.
My connection just keeps hanging up on me.
Not fun. All right, I'll move on to the next slide. I think this gets into the nitty gritty and we can spend probably the rest of the time talking about this question. But so in your job, whether you're a GIS company or GIS consulting or non-GIS consulting, what are some of the most challenging aspects of your company in regards to GIS? I'm not going to start this one, but I can add it later.
I can
okay.
start this one.
Okay.
Deliverable standards.
Okay.
If not just standards overall in terms of how you store and manage your data. I think that across teams or even across people that can change if you don't have standards in place to be able to share work and be able to pick up if someone else is handing you a project. Incredibly useful to have some kind of standard in place.
I think to grow off of that too is just documentation. So we've had a decent amount of turnover in the past couple of years. A lot of people who were in school or continued on in school or whatever and left. And I feel like some of the projects they're working on were pretty unique. So we need to have documentation of what they did and kind of how they did things. So for us, that's been a struggle that we've been trying to improve over the past couple of years.
So I'm trying to take notes as much as possible.
Building off of documentation, I would even say training. I mean, one of the benefits of GIS, even going back to what we all do, is trying to cut out the middlemen for others, whether that be story maps or ArcGIS Online portal, allowing others to create web maps and view data themselves. So training outside of Esri, sometimes you might need specific workflows that you have at your company that might need separate training, and that might need documentation itself, but training in general, I think, is a challenging aspect.
I think for me, part of this is a growing pain for us, that our challenge is having a workforce that has not turned over. We've had employees here that have been using ArcInfo for 25, like when they first came out. And so they've been using GIS for the last 30 years. Whereas I am aware of, you know, Esri going into the cloud and the point ArcGIS Online and more of these online platforms that I really want to get to and move the company, but we have long-term employees who might not feel comfortable with that transition. And how do you tell everyone who's used to doing desktop to merge to pro? So that's my challenge right now, is kind of trying to push people into the future of Arc Pro, and not understanding what the growing pains of that transition is going to be is challenging for me right now.
Yeah, we've been moving towards pro with all our new projects, and we still have, just for background, we have about 30 something professionals, and we're trying to move to Arc Pro, so it's been a challenge to get them over. So yeah, definitely agree. There's some sticklers that will not go to ArcMap or from ArcMap to Arc Pro. So yeah.
And there's always certain extensions that just don't work. I know the NRCS soil development tool set, for example, is written in Python 2.7. There's other tool sets, but like sometimes stuff that you rely on for standard deliverables is not updated by the core developers of that system. And what do you do going forward with ArcMap only? Well, it's not going to be actively developed and so forth. So.
Yeah, totally going to echo that. Like, there's certain things that still only work in ArcMap. They haven't been done in Pro yet, so that's part of our holdback. And I feel like to some extent, a lot of people have always grown up and learned on ArcMap, so changing to Pro is like this big thing, which I agree, it's certainly hard to get used to because it's changed, but once you're in it, it's not as scary, but that's really hard for some people to get over for us.
Someone
A
else
challenge.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, that's the mic. A challenge that happened with the pandemic is, I know if people working from home, where your data is stored and accessing it, Pro is not great over the network for data, you know, if you're at your house from the office or wherever it may be. So having a greater understanding of what you're trying to do on your local machine versus what the best place to actually do it in. Like, is it best to just keep this all in Portal or ArcGIS Online versus do you really need it on your local machine to run some kind of analysis ArcGIS Pro? And if so, going back to the standard of how you actually keep that away from the main file share, if that's where you store your data, specific standards, so then you can go back and merge the replicas or so forth.
Yeah,
Challenge. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of our issues too is that because Pro offers so many more things, especially with like the 3D, whatever and however our ArcGIS is configured, I guess we don't have the correct bandwidth, or I don't know what it's called, but we can't do 3D because it's just so painfully slow. So that's been a struggle for us too, that we're trying to figure out and go from there. But we have all of our stuff on an Amazon workspace, so everything is kind of already remote and in one spot for all of us, especially the analysts. But In other cases, we have to connect to VPN and get everything in. So that was a struggle to get into.
It's a pandemic. Yeah, I bought a house and I was like, I'm refusing to put an office back in my house. So I'm just gonna go back to the office building. But we've struggled with files too, and our internet would, our processing would work faster if we copied every file to the desktop, and it just gets messy. So I hear you on that one. Another challenge of mine, I think, is the more I learn about GIS and the more I get excited about different things and the more I get excited about the technology and where it's going, I have to always remind myself that my company is not a GIS company. And so it's like, how do you move your company's capabilities of GIS that doesn't force them into becoming a GIS firm, which we're never going to be. So how do I start still integrating those really cool things and capabilities without pigeonholing myself, let alone pigeonholing multiple people into this, you know, specific track. So that's a challenge of me, is trying to increase our capabilities, but also not pigeonholing myself. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. I don't know if anyone has any comments on that, but.
I had a different comment that I could add now or later
Yeah.
if somebody had a comment on Brittany's. One of the challenges that I find, it's similar to the deliverable standards, but it's clients just dumping data on you and having to sift through it and make sense of it and organize it in a way that you can then turn it around into products that you need. And I'd say that's probably my biggest challenge.
Building off of that, I want to say, depending on the file formats as well and what clients are expecting, such as like if someone gives you CAD, are you gonna, so they provide the actual coordinate systems for that, or if it's, you know, if it needs to be adjusted, or if it, you know, there's a lot of ETL and a lot of data cleanup and management with clients just giving you what they have and then expecting a certain product back.
Absolutely. Metadata is non-existent.
No.
Andrew, do you have anything to say as from a perspective that's challenging?
Sorry. Making sure that we have non-GIS professionals also doing quality checks on work. So we have people that kind of are part-time GIS, and they submit stuff and the quality is not as good sometimes. So we're having a hard time dealing with quality control with these part-time GIS folks that do field work sometimes and then come in and do their own GIS. So that's one of the challenges of kind of coordinating with the non-professionals.
Ted's kind of been in and out, but I don't know if we want to give him an option to try to say something. If he had anything to add. All right, I'll move on then. Anyone else, any last minute comments before I move on? So then I think I was just going to leave this one up to, like, if anyone had any ideas or if you had problems currently you're working on and you maybe wanted to ask a question and others could answer if they knew the answer. But this is basically more of a interface for us to help each other. So I don't know if anyone had any specific workflow questions or problems they're trying to figure out, and maybe some of us would have some advice or information to help.
I have one. Does anyone use Integromat or Power Automate to do like webhook development? So, you know, someone creates a feature layer and then it triggers a webhook to do something else. Has anyone dealt with that? No, thought I'd ask. There's not much out there. There's videos here and there, but I'm trying to have a project manager input a point in a web map using survey 123 and then have a buffer created from that point. Kind of geoprocessing automatically at that point. And I looked into doing webhooks for that and haven't gotten quite there yet with it.
Does it need to be real time?
He'd like to show up real time. Like he puts the map point in and then it buffers, like it triggers the geoprocessing buffer tool in our server.
It could be something where you have it set for like every 5 minutes with a webhook.
Right.
even if
Yeah.
it's
like
just
I
a
could do a
scheduler.
timed one. Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought about doing a scheduler like every minute. Like, can I schedule something to go off every minute? But I don't know. That seems like I don't know how much load that would be on the server.
Well, I think that the key would be that if you have like, say, even a Windows scheduler with some Python code for the Python API that checks the timestamps and sees if there's a related record or record with the same name as a buffer polygon, as you would have the point. And then if there isn't anything new, it doesn't do anything. It's just checking the tables and comparing them. Otherwise, it would create that new one, added as a new record. But you know that's going to take some work to get that Python set up.
Right. Okay, that's a great idea. Thanks.
Is everyone here like fluent in Python scripting? Okay.
No.
Okay. I think that's like something I'm trying to get my GIS technician to do, or if I might get into, I just don't know if it's worth it.
I would say the Jupyter notebooks that Esri has available. So it's built in with Pro, right? Jupyter Notebook you can run it separately from Pro, but in Pro you can set one up, and that has the Python API. It's not going to have the newest API version, mind you. So there's a lot you can learn about program development. The one thing I would say is they have examples online on the website where you can go through their workflows and they have it all commented out, and it shows exactly how to do certain things. If it's kind of similar to, right click on any tool or output and you get the Python for that. And it's a great way to just like block stuff together, is using Jupyter Notebooks to see what the output is in like a Scratch data set. So I would recommend doing that with the, if you're a Esri shop.
Okay. Cool. Anyone else?
I'm a big fan of Stack Exchange. I don't know. Whenever I'm trying to work through a project, I find myself there at least once or twice. So for me, that's a good resource.
Okay.
And that goes for R also, if you use R, I don't know.
I put in the chat the website I was referring to, Brittany.
Okay, cool. Thank you. What do I have next?
I had one quick question for Rebecca, actually. You said that you're using remote machines for your entire workforce, or?
Yeah, for all of the analysts, we have an Amazon workspace set up. I couldn't tell you much more other than that I have to log into it to get to it. Our tech team has set all of that up for us. So what is your specific question?
I was just, so I guess it's mostly a remote workforce that you have, is that?
Yeah, so I work from home, obviously. We used to have an office in Connecticut for 2 of us, but once COVID hit, we got rid of the office. Our main office is out of Boston. we used to have servers in the Connecticut office and the Boston office, and then those kind of all went away. Everything went to the cloud. And then we also have another satellite office in Texas. So we had a lot of different things. We ended up just going to the cloud and giving everybody the Amazon workspace to connect for any of the GIS and network work. We also utilize Google Meet and all of that stuff for like our internal communications. But in terms of where data lives, it's all on a server on the cloud for us.
Nice.
Yeah, it actually works really well. So.
Yeah, that's the same what we have. We use Amazon Workspace. We're having trouble with our Pro because it really needs a GPU.
Yes.
So we're looking into AppStream. We're working with Amazon right now and trying to set up an AppStream deployment. And that seems promising right now. It's a lot faster. It utilizes GPU. And it connects all to our online or, you know, our server data cloud. It's all in Amazon.
That is definitely good to know because we definitely struggle with Pro. It definitely is slow for us, and especially whenever we try to do anything in 3D, it's like
Yeah, you can't do 3D basically.
no, you can't.
Right. Yeah, any 3D work we have local installs on our laptops and do it there. Yep.
An alternative that my company does, we haven't gone full cloud yet, is just having virtual machines to boxes you can either remote into that are just in the data center, right next to the data. Pretty much you can't fight physics. So the closest enough to the data as you can be. So we have a few of those as needed for being remote. Many of us are remote from offices and such. So even if you have a small company, it might be as easy as just setting up a desktop computer that people can just log into one at a time or a couple at a time to do some basic work, as long as they won't overload it with the resources with Pro or whatever they're trying to load.
We have 2 remote desktops set up with a variety of software, but I haven't found that it's been that much faster. So at least Pro hasn't. Other things aren't. But
This is cool. I love that you guys are talking about this. I feel like I'm way over my head with some of the experience that you guys are talking about. So it's really cool to see what you guys are working on. I think I only have one more slide and it's just titled Brainstorm. I don't know what that means. I kind of just made a title. I don't know. I guess I'm thinking on my feet right now, but how do we, I don't know. Anyone just want to ask other questions or talk about other topics, or we have about 40 more minutes. I don't have any more specific questions. We could always end the session a little bit earlier too. But yeah, I can just leave it up in the air if anyone wants to just talk about anything else GIS related.
I'm just curious, we have such a big GIS team. Do any of you have a really large, like 20, 30 GIS specialists in the company that you work with? Because we have a hard time sometimes communicating who's doing what. And we're trying to come up with either a dashboard, challenge, right? Dashboard to see who's working on what, or does someone, use some sort of software to see how a project's going, what stage it might be at, or what kind of PMs are working on, who can you contact? Just general information dashboard or something. I don't know.
It's like a workflow question.
Yeah. I know for us, it really comes down to a ticketing system, or it's really a Kanban board if you're talking about who's doing what. You have companies like ServiceNow, where basically or even Jira, in a way where you're creating a card showing what you're doing on, and that allows you, if you have like a project ID or something, you put on it and you can pass work to someone else that way with all the components on it, and you archive it, it gets moved to completed once it's done, and you have a nice workflow. But
Yeah.
it can also be hard. I know at my company, we don't have a team that big that I work directly with, but we have others in other offices that kind of just support that office. And as a result, we don't work. They kind of work independently. And as a result, it can be hard to share work sometimes outside of lengthy emails, which is never a good thing, or a call on the phone.
Right. Yeah, we
the
utilize
nature of
Teams
it.
a lot. We have a lot of Teams channels
Mhm.
to try to communicate with everybody.
Yeah, but I think what you're referring to is closer to like a Kanban board.
Yeah. Okay.
So we use, I think it's really just a website, but it's called Asana. It's a task management application, and we use it for all of our projects. So say a local government customer has a request that comes in and they want a map page. So we'll put that into Asana and assign it to one of our analysts. And you can set due dates, you can set a priority if it's a super high priority to get done like right away, or if it can be done next week or something. So there's a lot of flexibility in that, and I really like it. And we've expanded it out to not just the GIS side of AppGeo, we've expanded it to proposals and some of those other outside things. Even the sales team's been using it, so take a look at Asana.
Can you type that in the chat?
Yes.
I think there is an additional benefit of these kind of products as well, that, if you're talking about like agile development and all that, it kind of comes back to that in a bit, where you have, that's in sprints, but something you can do with Kanban board is effort or some kind of valuation, whereby you can see if your team is overloaded, you can see who's busy, who's not, you can show week to week, month to month, even year to year, how much work you guys get done and for whom, and you can have some kind of dashboards and metrics to showcase that outside of emails and what other systems you have for tracking effort and efficiency.
And then I'll also say that we have a lot of status meetings. So if we're working on a bigger project, we'll have a status meeting either every week or bi-weekly, do it every other week to see what the status is of the analyst team, where things are in terms of project management, the budget, and all that stuff too. So we utilize that a lot at FGO.
Nice. Thanks.
Any other questions, concerns, topic conversations? Trying to think. I feel like I had a list of questions and don't know what happened to it.
I don't know if anyone struggles with this, but every now we have some standard templates in ArcGIS Pro we make available through Portal and elsewise for people that have exhibits that they just, you basically point your map and everything's set up. We find that every so often those break, the newest version of Portal, and or I should say with ArcGIS Pro, and it's just corruption. Does anyone else on this call struggle with templates, work that you've done to create standards, having to remake them every so often, which I think is probably a good thing in a way, because you go back to it and reassess your workflows, but just transitioning between versions, even like the Conda environment seems to break every single time in Pro.
I don't have that issue.
I think I'm kind of a little bit removed from the application that you're talking about, but when I'm making manuscripts or something and I have to submit, and then I want to use a template that I've used for a previous article, I try and bring that back in. Inevitably, that was created under a different version or under ArcMap, trying to go to Pro or something along those lines. And yeah, I have to rebuild it. But I'm nowhere near the production environment that you're speaking to.
We've had similar issues where we create a couple of template maps for some clients for some general map requests, and they do break every now and then for whatever reason. But again, like you said, kind of a good thing, so you make sure everything is working correctly and displaying correctly. So yes, it happens, but it's not happening every day when we're trying to open the map. So we just kind of deal with it.
I guess I had one more question specifically for Ted. I don't know if he's really on this call still. But Ted, you were mentioning data curation, especially public data sources before. How do you go about storing that as a central repository for your users?
Just send him a private message in the.
Yeah.
Well, I have to jump to another meeting, but this was really helpful. So
Okay.
thank you so much, Brittany and Nate, for putting this on. So thank you so much. And it was nice to meet all of you.
Yes, no, you too. Thank you.
See you later.
Yeah, so we have about a half hour. I think this went a little bit quicker than I was thinking it would be, but you also, didn't have a ton of participants. But yeah, I'm okay with ending this session early if everyone else is, and gives you a little extra break or time to go see another session at 2:30.
Oh, actually,
So-
I just came up with another one.
Okay, go for it.
Has your companies or industries seen a lot of hard time hiring? Have you been hiring? Have you had a lot of people leaving? Because we've had a lot of turnaround in the last 18 months. We've had to hire almost 7 people replaced, and right now we're hiring for 2 positions too. So we're like trying to find the right candidates, and just wondering just if it's kind of my industry, the kind of the environmental consulting industry, or if it's everywhere.
We're experiencing the same thing. We didn't have a lot of turnover this year. We had a few let goes because of certain markets of our company not succeeding, partly because of COVID, partly because just how it's been happening.
Sure.
But we have had trouble finding applicants in specific niches too. Like we've been looking for a CAD technician. It's very hard to find a technician that has CAD experience that doesn't, an entry-level CAD position. But I think if anything, people looking for jobs during COVID have a lot more options now. So it's more competitive on our end to try to find applicants, because applicants have
Sure.
so many choices now that everyone can work remotely, and companies are supporting that, ability. It's a lot more competition for us to find quality applicants for sure.
Yeah, we're seeing that. It's and some of these positions that we have open, the wide variety of applicants is like we're getting college level applicants, but we're asking for 5 years experience kind of deal, and like, well, it's not really going to work out. But I don't know. It's there. A lot of people are just seem to like broad sending out stuff. Doesn't matter what position is. Oh, they see GIS and they send stuff out. So we're not really getting too many good quality specific candidates that we're really trying to look for. So yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
it's a good time as any to rep that we do have a job board on our Slack that maybe someone can reach out to you through that.
Yeah, I had posted it in the Hoovia app, but it looks like that got deleted, so it must be in the Slack now. Okay.
Yeah, I think, was it you, Adam, that asked me for the link for the Slack for the job? You have to like enter the NEARC Slack, and then there is a channel that's dedicated to job postings.
Which might not have the most visibility right now, but we wanted to put it there rather than Hoova to keep it consistent.
I was surprised they didn't want to have the job posting in Hoova.
Yeah, so I guess I'll speak to my experience. Right now I am looking, not very hard, but I am looking, starting to, put feelers out and things. And that was one of my intents behind going to Connecticut for this event, which is now online. there are a lot of options, but I don't know, it's tough too, because I've always been a face-to-face kind of guy, you know, and personal connections, that type of thing. So to try and network over these types of platforms is a little bit not the best timing to
Very
do
hard.
this kind of thing. But I'm confident you'll find some good candidates. I'm not sure where you're located, but
What are you looking to do in Connecticut?
oh no, I was trying to go to the NEARC conference in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
I'm geographically restricted in my search,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it would have to be some sort of hybrid type of role, or
Okay.
yeah, I'm Rhode Island from now until forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, were you looking for academics or private? I think that's where I was more asking. But
Oh, I got you. I'm pretty sure that outside of URI, that's the only game in town for me, where
Okay.
I'm at. And I've done the academic thing for a while now, so I'm probably gonna do more of the private sector.
okay. Cool.
I guess branching off for some of this, because nothing else I can say that hasn't been said, but thoughts, I guess, on in person, kind of going off what you're saying, Adam, versus remote workers going forward, is just something that can be considered, depending on the position, fully or partially remote. And I know that it's company based, and there's a lot of issues, especially if it's entry level GIS person that may need a lot more training in your systems, or even just coming on like to a company as general, whether your skill level can be hard if it's remote. Just kind of wanted to open the dialogue on what you've all seen throughout this past few years.
It is, in my experience, we did hire a GIS technician to work remotely before our office went back to the building. I'm being the supervisor, it was definitely very challenging to train and, train and get them up to process and protocol development remotely. It's very challenging for me, and it's definitely some things that I've learned along the way. So it's definitely harder, I think, for someone entry level to start remotely and challenging.
I think some of it also, it depends on how much remote work they may have done in the past also. Just now everybody is kind of an expert, I guess, to a certain degree from the COVID experience, but I've always been at a satellite campus, and so I've taught online for 10 years. So I guess I'm used to this type of environment and working with remote teams spread around the world for the most part. So I guess that's my personal experience, but I would imagine that there are other folks that have this type of experience and they can draw on that from the actual just getting the job done. But to learn your systems and protocols, I think that really comes back to understanding the standards that you have in place in those systems. And I don't know what type of onboarding you typically have for employees coming in, but I would think within a few days you could get somebody up and operating. Maybe I'm being naive in that.
Maybe this comes back to the documentation as well, as you're saying with the onboarding. Do you have all your systems documented? Is it something they can read, or does it just have to be one-on-one going to, I guess, what you were saying, Brittany, with the difficulty with remote training? I know our company has hired some people for our group that I don't work very closely with, but it's definitely been harder to bring them up to speed, from what I've heard, compared to when it was in the office. I don't know. It's hard to even just get on a social level without that in person, which I'm a big proponent of remote learning and work, but you gotta meet your coworkers at some point in person. I don't know.
Yeah. It was challenging. I mean, there was technology issues. There was a slew of issues that kind of just happened all at once that just made it uber challenging. And I'm a much more social person that likes to work side by side and collaboratively, and just I operate in a very social manner. Just it was remote work for me in general. It's just been challenging because I just want to be in person. And, you know, that's just who I am as an employee. It's part of my character. But in general, I bought a house, and as soon as I was able to move back to the office, I did. So, but yeah, questions.
Well, I think also the in-person environment, you get a lot of those conversations that happen per chance, walking down the hallway or the break room, whatever. And I think there's a lot of value in those types of conversations that just doesn't happen in this remote environment. A lot of the remote contacts are specific and direct. I don't know if there are platforms that others are using to kind of try and get those type of interactions up that you know, the per chance, or I don't know, the Slack or what have you. I'm not sure.
We use Microsoft Teams, and like you're saying, I mean, it's very transactional. It's like, can you do this for me? Great. It's not water cooler moments, or, you know, there's different level of trust you have, not getting in person. So the only thing I do personally is try to reach out to people on a team just socially every now and then, you know, talk, you know, go on video camera and talk about project, but they just, how are you doing, you know, and so forth, because there's not really another medium to do it.
Yeah.
So it definitely, remote work has been hard, and it's kind of easier for all of us because we deal with technology in a way. So that's not the worst thing for remote work. I know in my company that we have a lot of drillers and field personnel who did not have an opportunity to work from home, and so the perspective from them is very different than for me throughout all of this, and the training and so forth was very different. But it is, yeah, like you're saying, very transactional over a call. So I didn't have any specific questions. I guess I was just curious about how everyone else was dealing with this, and your thoughts going forward. If your companies were going to be more remote now, or if, like you, Brittany, want to work in the office, and I think that's, you know, it's not one thing or the other. I think we all want different things. So
Yeah.
didn't know if your company wanted people back in the office for this, or if you found it was just not working out efficiently without office interactions.
Yeah, I think there's a few of us that are definitely, we work more collaboratively and more efficiently when we're in the office, just because you can have those cooler moments where you talk about things, and everyone's busy in online meetings. In order to have these water cooler moments, you have to schedule a meeting with them. And so that's been challenging. You can't just go over to the person's office and just ask a really quick question without having to type it over or type it into the text box. Or my company, I think, prefers people to be in the office, but we do offer a hybrid right now, up to 2 days a week working from home. But also, as a company, needs to have the technology to support the entire office working from home, which we currently don't have, but it's okay. All right, it's 2:40, almost 2:45, it's 15 minutes. Does anyone else have any last minute comments? I think this is a really good discussion, and it's really great to hear from other consultants. So
I can't wait to do this in person
I know.
next year or sometime in the future. So
Yeah, New Hampshire, right?
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. No,
I'm excited.
yeah, I know. I think Nate and I agree that this is a great idea, and I definitely want to keep doing these roundtable discussions because it just gets us more connected, and making friendships and colleagues and stuff. So
it's nice to
Maybe
hear that, yeah, you're not the only one with the same issues.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think I'll.
Commiserate with each other. Exactly.
Yeah. This process isn't working.
Yep.
How do I write Python scripting, Python code? Okay.
All right, thanks all.
Well, thanks
you.
everyone.
Thanks, Brittany, for putting this together.
Yeah. Bye.